Have you ever noticed that you're always running, not just with your feet, but with your mind? There's this feeling inside you like something is chasing you and you don't know what it is. Your mind never stops. But here's the strange thing. What are you running from and where are you running to? Most of us spend our entire lives in this exhausting marathon. We run from feelings we don't like, especially that tight sensation in your chest called anxiety. We run toward things we think will save us. The perfect job, the right relationship, more money. But no matter how fast we run, that feeling follows us. And the strangest part is, we never stop to ask if maybe the running itself is the problem. What if I told you that your anxiety isn't actually the enemy? What if the real issue is that you've been trying to fix something that was never broken? Your mind is constantly running, planning, worrying, analyzing. You're fleeing from uncomfortable feelings, sadness, fear, anger, anxiety. Your mind has learned a trick. If I keep busy, maybe I won't have to feel these things. It's like turning up the music really loud so you don't hear the neighbors fighting. But the fighting doesn't stop just because you can't hear it, so you run toward things instead. The mind says, if I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. If I find the right partner, then I'll feel complete. The mind is always saying then. But when has then ever arrived? You've already achieved things you once desperately wanted, and for a moment, you felt good. But what happened next? The mind started running again. The finish line keeps moving, and this is where time becomes your prison. You're always living in an imaginary place called the future, but the future doesn't exist. It's a ghost. And you're spending most of your mental energy living in a place that isn't even real. When will you be happy? When I get that promotion. This is the great trap. You're constantly preparing to live instead of actually living. And what happens when the future arrives? Your mind immediately jumps to the next future. The when I'm happy moment never actually arrives. Here's the truth. Life only happens now. The past is a memory existing now as a thought. The future is an imagination existing now as a thought. The only thing that's real is what's happening right now. But anxiety lives in the future. You imagine losing your job, so you feel anxious now. You imagine getting sick, so you worry now. Notice something. All the suffering is happening now, but the problems are in the future. You're experiencing real pain over imaginary events. Right now, as you're reading this, are you okay? Is there actually a problem happening in this second? Not tomorrow, but right here, right now, is there really a problem? Usually, the answer is no. Let's go back in time. Imagine a caveman named Og. Og lives in a dangerous world. His brain develops an amazing tool, anxiety. When Og hears a rustle in the grass, his body tenses up. This anxiety response is brilliant for survival. It says, danger might be coming. Get ready. Fast forward to today. There are no lions. Nobody is trying to kill you. But your anxiety system is still running like it's the Stone Age. Your mental radar is on high alert. And when there are no real lions, your mind creates imaginary ones. Your boss might fire you. Your partner might leave you. Your mind generates an endless parade of possible disasters, and your body responds to each one as if it's a real lion. But there's nothing to run from and nothing to fight. And here's the trap. You've started to believe that you are this anxious mind. The mind chatters all day long. What if this happens? What if that happens? And somewhere along the way, you decided that voice in your head is you. When the mind is anxious, you say, I am anxious. But is that true? Are you really the same thing as your thoughts? Your anxiety isn't you. It's just weather passing through the sky of your consciousness. But because you think you are the anxiety, you take it very seriously. You try to control it, fix it, get rid of it, and that's where the real trouble begins. Here's where things get really interesting. Once you believe you have a problem called anxiety, your mind tries to solve it. But there's a catch. The mind trying to fix anxiety is using anxiety to do it. When you're anxious about being anxious, you're worrying about worry. You're afraid of fear. The mind says, I need to get rid of this anxiety right now. See the trick, that's just more anxiety. You're using the same mechanism that created the problem to try to solve the problem. It's like trying to wash blood off your hands with blood. The more effort you put into fighting anxiety, the stronger it becomes, because the fighting itself is powered by anxiety. The resistance is the problem pretending to be the solution. In Zen, they have a perfect expression for this. It's like trying to bite your own teeth. Try it right now. You can't, can you? In the same way, the mind can't fix itself. The problem can't solve the problem. Here's a beautiful image. Imagine a glass of water with mud at the bottom. The water is cloudy. What do? Most people would stir it, filter it. But what happens? You make it cloudier. The mud swirls around even more. What if you just left it alone? The mud settles by itself. The water clears. Not because you did anything, but because you stopped interfering. Your mind is like that water. When you leave it alone, the anxiety settles. The problem wasn't the anxiety. The problem was your war against the anxiety. And there's something called meta-anxiety. That's anxiety about anxiety. You feel anxious, and then you become anxious about feeling anxious. Oh no, I'm anxious. What if this gets worse? Now you have two layers. Resistance feeds persistence. When you fight something, you're giving it energy. Let me ask you something. What are you really afraid of? For most people, it comes down to this. I'm afraid of uncertainty. I'm afraid I won't be okay. In other words, you're afraid of insecurity. And what do you want more than anything? Security. You want guarantees. So you spend your whole life trying to build security. You save money. You plan your future. You construct this elaborate castle of security. But here's what nobody wants to tell you. True security doesn't exist. It never has, and it never will, because life itself is insecure. Life is a river, always moving, always changing. You can't step in the same river twice. Your body is changing every second. Your thoughts change. Your circumstances change. Everything you think is solid is actually temporary. The job you have today might be gone tomorrow. The person you love might leave or die. This is not pessimism. This is just reality. And the moment you truly understand this, something amazing happens. You realize that your entire anxiety has been built on an illusion. You've been trying to achieve something impossible. You've been trying to make the river stand still. Think about children building sandcastles on the beach. They work so hard, but the tide comes in. The waves wash it all away. Did the ocean do something wrong? No, that's just how it works. Your life is like that beach. You build your castles, your career, your plans, your security, and life keeps flowing. Things fall apart, and you suffer. Not because the castle fell, but because you thought it was supposed to last forever. Here's the real kicker. The desire for security and the fear of insecurity are the same thing. When you say, I want to be secure, you're actually saying, I'm afraid of being insecure. The pursuit itself keeps the fear alive. So what's the answer? If fighting makes it worse, if the mind can't fix itself, what do? The answer is so simple that most people miss it completely. You stop fighting. You surrender. Now, surrender sounds like defeat, but that's not what it means. Surrender means you stop resisting what is. You cooperate with life instead of battling it. Think about swimming. When you first learn, you're scared of the water. You're tense. You fight against the water. And what happens? You sink. But then someone teaches you the secret. Trust the water. Relax into it. Stop fighting, and something amazing happens. When you relax, you float. The water supports you naturally. Did the water change? No. You changed, you stopped resisting. Surrender is like that. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming intelligent. When you're in a river with a strong current, you don't swim directly against it. You swim at an angle, working with the current. That's surrender. That's wisdom. When you surrender to anxiety, something shocking happens. The anxiety begins to dissolve, not because you defeated it, but because you stopped giving it the resistance it feeds on. When you stop fighting, the fight is over. Try this right now. If you're feeling any anxiety, instead of trying to push it away, just feel it. Where is it in your body? Your chest? Your stomach? Just observe it. Don't try to change it. Say to it, okay, you're here. I feel you. What happens? Usually, the intensity starts to decrease. The anxiety loses its power when you stop resisting it. The anxiety was never the problem. Your relationship with the anxiety was the problem. Take away the resistance, and there's just a feeling. And feelings, and when you let them be, pass on their own. Here's the really interesting part. What if I told you that your entire life, with all its drama and anxiety, is actually a kind of game, a play, a cosmic dance. Think about why you watch movies. The characters face problems, dangers, there's drama. Sometimes terrible things happen, and you, knowing it's fiction, find it entertaining. You care what happens even though you know it's not real. You are the universe pretending very convincingly that you're just a small, separate person. You've gotten so into the role that you forgot you're acting. From this perspective, your anxiety is part of the play. Without darkness, you couldn't appreciate light. Without fear, you couldn't know courage. There's a story about a king who disguised himself as a beggar and genuinely worried about finding coins. If the king remembered who he really was, he'd laugh. This is what spiritual traditions call cosmic laughter. Here we are, infinite consciousness, pretending to be tiny, anxious humans, worried about bills and social status. When you touch this perspective, even for a moment, anxiety loses its absolute grip. You realize you're watching a movie of your life while also being in the movie. The character might be anxious, but the awareness watching the character is completely at peace. How do I apply this to my daily life? Here are 3 simple practices. First, recognize that you are not your thoughts. Right now, notice that you're reading these words. Who's noticing? There's a voice in your head, commenting, thinking. But who's listening to that voice? There's an awareness that's present before any thought. Notice and name. When a thought appears, instead of immediately believing it, just observe it. Tell yourself, there's a thought that says, I'm not good enough. Create a little space between you and the thought. When you do this, the thought loses its absolute power over you. You're the awareness watching the thought and not the thought itself. Second, come back to the present moment. Engage 3 senses for 15 seconds. What do you see? What sounds do you hear? What physical sensations do you feel? Your feet on the ground, your breath, the temperature on your skin. The present moment is where life happens. It's where anxiety can't survive. Anxiety needs the future to exist. But when you're fully present, anxiety has nowhere to go. Third, don't take yourself so seriously. Find 1% of humor. When you catch yourself in a worry spiral, see if you can find a little bit of lightness. Just there I go again, creating elaborate disaster scenarios that probably won't happen. This lightness doesn't diminish your experience. It helps you handle difficulties better. When you take everything with crushing seriousness, you become rigid. But when you can hold your life more playfully, you become flexible. You can bend without breaking. These 3 practices support each other. When you recognize you're not your thoughts, it's easier to stay present. When you're present, you naturally take things less seriously, and none of them are about fighting anxiety. They're about shifting your relationship with it. Now, the final truth: the cure for anxiety is not to eliminate it. The cure is to accept it as part of being alive. Anxiety is not your enemy. It's a natural part of the human experience, like storms are part of weather. Some days are sunny, some days are stormy. Both are okay. You've been told that something is wrong with you for feeling anxiety. But that's the trap. That belief is what creates the suffering. The anxiety itself is just a feeling in your body. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's not actually dangerous. What makes it unbearable is your resistance to it. What would happen if you just let it be there? You'd discover that you can coexist with anxiety. You can function with it. You can even live fully with it present. The irony is that when you stop trying to get rid of anxiety, it often decreases on its own. But even if it doesn't disappear completely, you discover you don't need it to disappear. You're okay either way. And here's the second part. Security does not exist, and true freedom is found in insecurity. Once you accept this, once you stop fighting the fundamental uncertainty of existence, you become free. Free from the exhausting effort of trying to control everything. Free to actually live. Everything is temporary. You're going to lose it eventually. When you accept that nothing lasts, you stop postponing your life. You realize that this moment, exactly as it is, with all its uncertainty, is all you have. And it's enough. You are not the small, frightened person you think you are. That's the biggest illusion. You think you're like a little boat lost at sea, always in danger of sinking. And from that perspective, of course you're anxious. But here's what you haven't realized. You are not the boat. You are the ocean. You are the entire sea pretending to be one tiny wave. The wave rises and falls, appears and disappears, but the ocean remains. The wave is never separate from the ocean. When you understand this, everything changes. You realize you can't be destroyed because you were never just this limited form. The person you think you are is like a character in a dream, and you are the dreamer. The real relief doesn't come from finally fixing yourself, not from achieving perfect security, not from eliminating all anxiety. It comes from seeing through the whole game. It comes from recognizing that you are the awareness in which all of this appears. You are not the anxious thoughts. You are the space in which those thoughts arise and disappear. You are not the tight feeling. You are the consciousness that's aware of that feeling. And the present moment is always okay. It might contain anxiety or fear, but the present moment itself is absolutely okay. This is not something you need to achieve. You already are this. You've always been this. You just forgot. Remembering doesn't require effort. It requires the opposite. It requires stopping the effort. It requires surrendering the whole project of becoming something other than what you are. So the answer to anxiety is to stop looking for an answer. Stop trying to fix yourself. Just be here. Just feel what you're feeling. Just notice that you're aware. That's it. Life will continue to bring challenges. You'll still feel anxiety sometimes, but you'll meet it all from a different place. Not from the scared little boat trying to survive the storm, but from the ocean itself. You'll realize that you were never broken. You were never lacking. You were never separate from the whole of existence. You were always complete, always home, always okay. You just didn't know it. And now, maybe, you're starting to remember. So here we are, at the end of this journey. What have we discovered? That anxiety isn't the monster you thought it was. That the race you've been running has no finish line because you're already where you need to be. The relief you've been seeking is available right now when you stop seeking it. Everything comes down to one simple shift, from fighting life to flowing with it, from being at war with yourself to being at peace with what is. That shift happens when you finally give up the effort, when you stop, when you surrender, when you come home to this moment. Your anxiety has been trying to tell you something, not that you're broken, but that you've been living in your head instead of in reality. The anxiety is like an alarm clock ringing to wake you up. And now you're waking up. In this moment, you're here, you're aware, you're alive. And that's all that's ever been asked of you. If this conversation has opened something for you, consider subscribing to this channel. We're exploring these questions together. Hit that like button if this perspective resonated with you. Your path is your own. Trust yourself. Trust life. And remember, you are the ocean itself. Dreaming it's a wave. Welcome home.